Hello. How do you know if someone is king? Maybe they sit in a certain place or wear certain things, like a crown. Maybe they have power and money. Maybe they live in a palace. And what sort of things do kings do? Maybe they go to all the important events and order people around and make them serve them. Well, today we're looking at Mark's Gospel. And Mark wants to help us think about Jesus. Is Jesus really God's king? And what does God's king do? He starts his Gospel by writing this. He says, the beginning of the Gospel. Gospel means good news. The beginning of the good news about Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Christ is another word for God's king. And then we learn lots of things about Jesus being God's king. We learn he's powerful. He's more powerful than evil. He throws a demon out of a person. He's more powerful than sickness. There's a man who can't walk and Jesus heals him and he can walk around. He's more powerful than nature. There's a really strong blustery sea and they think they're going to drown and Jesus says, quiet, be still. And the waves stop. We learn that Jesus has authority. People follow him and they listen to him. We learn that Jesus says he can forgive your sins. He can wipe away all the things you've done wrong that make a barrier between you and God. Now, they're not things a king or a queen normally does, are they? But we learn the reason Jesus can do all those things is because he is God. He is God in the flesh. Wow. But what will God's king do? Well, he actually tells his followers his plan, what he's going to achieve as the king. But they can't get their head round it. Listen to what Jesus says. He then began to teach them that the Son of Man, that's another name for Jesus, must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, chief priests and teachers of the law, and that he must be killed and after 3 days rise again. What does it mean for Jesus to be king? It says it means he's going to sacrifice himself. His plan is to die and then rise. And he actually says that 3 times to his followers. And that really confuses them. They were hoping for a big, mighty ruler who'll beat up all the bad guys and make Israel great again. But that's not Jesus' plan. He says he didn't come to be served. He came to serve, to be punished in our place, to take our sin and the judgment it deserves. You could summarise the message of Mark in these 2 words, King's Cross. Jesus is the king who goes to the cross. Maybe you've been to King's Cross Station in London, or you've seen it on Harry Potter. That's the message of Mark. King. Jesus is the king who dies on the cross. King's Cross. And that's what we see happen in the rest of Mark's Gospel. Jesus goes to Jerusalem at Passover time, and it's there that they have the very first communion. He says the bread represents his body, and the wine represents his blood, that they're going to be sacrificed for his people. And then Jesus is arrested. He's locked up. He's put on trial. They mock him, just like he said. And then they hang him on a cross. Jesus dies to save others. And when Jesus dies, it goes dark. Jesus cries out, and a man, a Roman centurion, says, surely that man who died, surely Jesus was the Son of God. And then Jesus is buried in a big tomb. But a couple of days later, some women go to the tomb and they think, how are we going to get in? There's a big stone in the way. But when they arrive, the stone's gone. And there's an angel there. And the angel says, Jesus is risen. Just like he promised. You know, he said he was going to die and 3 days later rise again. That's what happened. He's not here. He's alive. You're going to see him soon. And that's really where Mark's gospel stops. It's like he's saying, I've given you the evidence. I've told you everything Jesus said and did that you need to know. That he's the king who died on the cross. What do you think? Are you going to trust him? Are you going to follow him? Are you going to believe that he is the king who is God, who sacrificed himself to forgive you? And that is Mark's gospel.